So I'd like to begin with a story. Okay. It was many years ago that villagers in downstream recall spotting the first body in the river. Some old-timers remember how Spartan were the facilities and procedures for managing that sort of thing. Sometimes they say it would take hours to pull 10 people from the river, and even then, only a few would survive. Though the number of victims in the river has increased greatly in recent years, the good folks of downstream have responded admirably to the challenge. Their rescue system is clearly second to none. Most people discovered in the swirling waters are reached within 20 minutes, many in less than 10. Only a small number drown every day before help arrives, a big improvement from the way it used to be. Talk to the people of downstream, and they'll speak with pride about the new hospital by the edge of the waters, the flotilla of rescue boats ready for service at a moment's notice, the comprehensive plans for coordinating all the manpower involved and the large number of highly trained and dedicated swimmers, always ready to risk their lives to save victims from the raging currents. Sure, it cost a lot, but, say the downstreamers, what else can decent people do, except to provide whatever is necessary when human lives are at stake? Oh, a few people downstream have raised the question now and again, but most folks show little interest in what's happening upstream. It seems there's so much to do to help those in the river that nobody's got the time to check how all those bodies are getting there in the first place. That's the way things are sometimes. So as students of Buddhism, we understand the importance of cause and effect. That sometimes it's very clear. For example, if I flip the light switch when I go in a room, I can expect that the light is going to come on. And sometimes we come to it belatedly by looking more closely at effect or outcome and working backwards. An example of this latter way is that I'm now doing some PT and no longer ignorant of the fact that somatized stress has had an effect on my physical body. It would take more examination to learn specifically why I chose the stress patterns I did. And there are always clues, kind of breadcrumbs along the trail. But at the moment, I don't need to know that much. So I could say I'm less ignorant about my body in this way than I was before. I've learned something. So now I can be more conscious and mindful about noticing and correcting these stress patterns when they begin. The word ignorance is a strong one and pejorative, but it really means we simply don't know what we don't know. The word ignorant catches our ear because we know it's the ground in the chain of dependent origination. Our ignorance sets the stage for the unconscious unfolding of our actions. It's highly important we become less ignorant. It's a tall order, though, to be less ignorant. We have to be willing to sit down and face our difficulties and our conditioning. What would it take in our stream story for the villagers to face what was going on downstream and to be able to change it upstream? We can guess there would be inner and outer difficulties involved. It would take a long time with a lot of people with different backgrounds, races, and skills working together, with ideally holding in mind the benefit for whatever living beings there may be. As the sutta goes, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great and the mighty, medium, short, or tall, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. And importantly, let none deceive another. You could say we're beginning to be curious and looking at the causes and conditions upstream when we see the results in our current society of downstream. For sure, when we have the goal of benefit for all beings in mind, the complexities will unravel with beneficial learnings. However, in our culture, our conditioning is that we don't pause nearly enough to look at our situation downstream, to self-examine, work together, and transform, taking into account the poisons of our greed, hatred, and delusion. I don't know how different the conditioning of other cultures is, but it caught my attention when a nightclub was bombed on Bali some years ago, and the inhabitants of the island went there with the intention to determine some of the internal causes and conditions. I don't know the outcome of those weeks of investigation. I just know we in this country don't have the intention to understand, cooperate, and transform our disasters. As our federal parks, public schools, healthcare, clean air and water, and the fabric of our society's values are being systematically dismantled, I've been thinking about causes and conditions, my ignorance of them, and their transformation. Excuse me, I had a flu 3 weeks ago. And the cough hangs on. Causes, conditions, and our ignorance on the federal level is way too complex for the limit of this talk. But I can offer a few thoughts or pieces of thread to join, to jog your own inquiry. Bruce Gibney's new book, A Generation of Sociopaths, defines baby boomers as those who were born between 1940 and 1960. This group, he claims, has betrayed America. We boomers, he says, are improvident, no foresight, we're spendthrifts and thoughtless, the key indicators of antisocial or sociopathic personality disorder. In 1970, when the boomers entered the workforce, the gross national debt was just under 35%, and now it's at 105%. We've known about the danger of climate change for a long time, but since remediation has to happen now, we've been too focused on consumption or entitlements to fund it. Boomers, says Gibney, were raised permissively under Dr. Spock, are high consumers of the first mass-produced TVs, and had an excess of lead in their environment, and were predominantly bottle-fed. In their time, there was effortless prosperity. No-fault divorce was passed in '69 with another sociopathic indicator, the inability to form lasting relationships. Currently, Gibney says, the economy has slowed our high consumption, and our disinterest in the environment, infrastructure, research, development, and education are grave ills we pass along to our children and grandchildren. In this way, sociopaths lack empathy. And I might add, what about our lack of empathy toward refugees and those in need? Clearly, this isn't the whole story. We boomers have ushered in large equality improvements. And the book Snakes in Suits makes the point that dicing and slicing up tasks in different cubicles has left no one responsible for anything larger than their own little piece. If we look at some of the causes and conditions for the generation from 1940 to 1960, there was great turmoil. The Second World War started in 1940. The Korean War started in 1950. The Civil Rights Movement in '54 and Vietnam in '59. In our country's history, the earliest settlers did away with the native population and instituted race and gender discrimination with its patterns of dominance and subservience. These disasters are still very much with us today. Add this to the fact that almost everyone has come to the U.S. as an immigrant. We can also assume everyone risks crossing an ocean because they are fleeing a situation worse than the new one they imagine they are coming to. Along with not much luggage, The immigrants brought baggage of scarcity and fear from the old country. In the effortless prosperity of those U.S. years, plus the wars, the advent of the atom bomb and the McCarthy era, large confusions arose which increased American fear and anxiety. That has certainly continued. I remember traveling as a young adult on third-class buses in Mexico, where we were packed in like sardines. And I was thinking, why am I not afraid? Why is no one afraid? Why are all these clean, hardworking people so calm? The only conclusion I came to then is that they didn't live in America. The stress and competition of life in America is large and has led to an increased sense of separation. Separation from ourselves and from each other. James Baldwin, in the excellent film I'm Not Your Negro, wondered what happened to white people in America. He said they are scared and hollow. We are scared and hollow, separate selves. The idea of a separate self, Buddhism teaches, involves self-identification and clinging. It's helpful. We're learning to identify our stress, our struggles, our suffering, stop clinging to its cause, and set more wholesome conditions for that happening by taking the Eightfold Path to its cessation. You remember that's right or wise view, intention, speech, action, livelihood, mindfulness, effort, concentration. As Thanissaro Bhikkhu concisely puts it, stress should be comprehended, its cause abandoned, its cessation realized, and the path to its cessation developed. So it seems like a good time for a tune. There's a 1970s one, that's 40 years ago, by Joni Mitchell. The lyrics go, they paved paradise and put up a parking lot with a pink hotel, a boutique, and a swinging hot spot. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. They took all the trees and put them in a tree museum, and they charged all the people $1.50 just to see them. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? Hey, farmer, farmer, put away that DDT now. Give me spots on my apples, but leave me the birds and the bees, please. Late last night, I heard that screen door slam and a big yellow taxi took away my old man. Late last night, I heard that screen door slam when a big yellow truck took away my house and my land. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? Thank you, Joni Mitchell. And with the marvels of technology, I hope we can hear it. And if you'd like to sing along, please do. Wait a minute, I'll see if I can. Can you hear that? Well, wait a minute.
got till it's gone. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Now they took all the trees, put them in a tree museum. And they charged all the people $1.50 just to see 'em. I said, don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you've got till it's gone. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Hey, farmer, farmer, put away that DDT now. Give me spots on my apples, believe me, the birds and the bees. Don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you've got till it's gone. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Late last night, I heard that screen door slam. And a big yellow taxi come and took away my old man. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. Late last night, I heard that screen door slam. And a big yellow tractor come and took away my house. It took away my land. I said, don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you've got till it's gone. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot. They paved paradise, put up a parking lot.
So, thank you, Joni Mitchell. So there's a Rumi poem that this reminds me of. It goes, hammer this heart any way you like for the right ringing sounds to spread like water over the dry, listening dead. Hammer this heart any way you like for the right ringing sounds to spread like water over the dry, listening dead. Last month, Jews celebrated Purim, based on an 8th century story in which the brave Queen Esther saved many Jews from King Ahasuerus's henchman, Haman. Cause for a celebration, indeed. Purim treats are hamantaschen, triangular-shaped sweets symbolizing Haman's hat. It also symbolizes turning something wicked into something sweet. Take note, transformation is the name of the game. The way in is the way out. It is said that the king issued the death decree to Jews at this time in Persia because they were divided and could be taken advantage of. Queen Esther's courage is that she revealed to the king that she herself was a Jew and would be killed, and the king called off the decree. Love can conquer decrees. And last night was the beginning of Passover, which celebrates liberation from Egyptian slavery. It's also about freedom from inner and outer enslavement for all beings. Along the way, there must be sense enough and morality enough to cut the chains of hate by putting love in the center of our hearts. At this time when our country is so divided, when many people appear to be thinking only of themselves and their own gain, it's important to unite in order to protect this planet. And people, of course, but right now I'm talking planet, as we all rely on it. Clean water, clean air, clean soil and seeds. All beings want the same thing, so let's stand up for it. It doesn't make sense to turn paradise into a parking lot. We all want, and we want for all others to be free from enslavement, healthy, happy, peaceful, safe, and have the ease of well-being. And even in our democracy, many feel distanced and disenfranchised from the political process and need to learn new organization and communication skills. A new book that looks good is by Eric Liu, titled You're more powerful than you think, a citizen's guide to making change happen. We boomers and all others are being called, like Queen Esther, to stand up for what we value. Let's not wait till it's gone to value the paradise we've got. And the good news is we are getting off the sofa, off the cushion, and organizing collectively. Earlier this month, the magazine The Lion's Roar, which used to be Shambhala's Sun, published a letter by 13 leading Buddhist teachers and co-signed by over 100 more Buddhist teachers titled, "Taking a Stand Against Suffering." The letter calls on Buddhists and all people of faith to take a stand against the policies of the new administration that will create suffering for the most vulnerable in society. Quoting the Mahaparinirvana Sutta, as long as a society protects the vulnerable among them, they can be expected to prosper and not decline. Now, I understand we're all on a continuum of views about politics and of how we hold ourselves internally, externally, and both internally and externally. We are all on the continuum from understanding Buddhism to assist inner life only, to understanding that all Buddhism is engaged Buddhism. And we all get to make our own choices, but it's important to respect the whole breadth of the continuum. This letter, titled "Stand Against Suffering," is subtitled "An Unprecedented Call to Action" by Buddhist teachers. So we're on the side of the engaged Buddhism here. And let me just read a couple of paragraphs from that letter. What is happening now strikes at the heart of this, our central commitment as Buddhists. It transcends our differences and calls us to action. If the policies of the new administration prevail, millions of people in vulnerable and less privileged communities will suffer. Hopes will be dashed. Undoubtedly, lives will be lost. International conflict will intensify and environmental destruction will worsen. Facing the reality of this suffering, we remember that peacefulness does not mean passiveness, and non-attachment does not mean non-engagement. Today we ask ourselves, what does it mean to be Kuan Yin in the modern world? What does it mean to be a bodhisattva citizen, someone who's willing to engage with society to help protect and awaken others? Examining our deepest values, as Buddhists, we discern through wisdom the most skillful ways to live and uphold them. The wisdom teaching of interdependence is the Bodhisattva Citizen's Guide to the web of causes and conditions that create suffering. While Buddhism has traditionally emphasized the personal causes of suffering, today we also discern how the three poisons of greed, aggression, and indifference, this can also be translated as greed, hatred, and delusion, operate through political, economic, and social systems to cause suffering on a vast scale. And Christina Feldman, in her new book, Boundless Love, writes, "In looking closely at his heart and mind, the Buddha discovered a radical way of being in this world in which fear and confusion could come to an end. He understood that to change our mind of the moment was to change our world of the moment, and that suffering and fear only governed our hearts as long as we allowed ourselves to be intimidated by them. In turning toward everything we have been prone to abandon, with an intentional curiosity, kindness, and compassion, fear and dissociation can come to an end." The Buddha taught that the possibility of profound awakening and profound freedom is the heritage of every human being, to be discovered and understood within this very life. And from the Sutta Nipata, through conviction, one crosses over the flood. Through heedfulness, the sea. Through persistence, one overcomes suffering and stress. Through discernment, a person is purified. Hatred never ceases with hatred. By love alone does it end. This is an ancient truth. So we'll end with a little metta or loving kindness. If you could just get comfortable. And just drop back into your body, into your practice. That was a lot of talk in a short period of time. And turn your attention to the warmth of your heart space. The heart is so central in the body. And feel it. Feel the warmth of that heart space, kind of central of your real heart. Just feel it within you with profound kindness and gratitude toward yourself. And then notice how your warm heart effortlessly radiates outward. In front of your heart space, out from the back of your heart space, out from the left side of your heart space, out from the right side of your heart space, out below your heart space, out above your heart space. With these wishes for yourself and others, may I find healing in the midst of these times. May I find peace in the midst of this. May I find peace in this moment. May I rest in care and compassion. And may our practice benefit all beings. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Please drive gently.